we have seen the Mini Cooper, we've seen the new Mini Countryman as well, and now we have got the filling in the Mini Sandwich. This is the Mini Aceman. Now, you're in the market for a Mini. You really like the design, you like the kind of sporty driving, but the Mini Cooper, the hatch, it's a bit small for you, but the Countryman, a bit pricey, maybe a bit too big. Well, this is your answer, the Mini Aceman. So it splits the difference between those two cars. Now, the Aceman, only electric. You can't get this car with a petrol or diesel engine. So that is what you get. You've got two different batteries with the range running from 185 miles up to 252 miles for the bigger battery that we have got here in the SE. You get a little bit more power with that as well. Prices start from £31,800 or from just over £36,000 for the bigger battery. But what might interest you is that if you've been looking at the electric Mini Cooper, the little hatchback, which is only 3-door if you want the electric one, well, you're looking at an £1,800 price jump to go from that to the Aceman, because that is the gap that this car is filling, really, is the slightly more practical electric Mini. You can get the Aceman with a 38.5 kilowatt hour or 49.2 kilowatt hour batteries, offering a range of between 185 and 252 miles. The smaller battery car also gets a bit less power and slower charging, with 181 brake horsepower and peak rapid charging speeds of 70 kilowatts, while the SE that we are testing here gets 215 brake for 0 to 62 in 7.1 seconds and will charge at a much more competitive 95 kilowatts. So, practicality is a thing for this car because you may well have discounted the Mini Cooper for being a bit too small. So, you want something that's a bit roomier, and that is what you're getting. But it is only a bit roomier. So I would note slightly high load lift, so if you've got heavier stuff to lift, that's kind of a problem. But you'll still get a couple of cabin bags in there, lightweight buggy, so it's going to be usefully more practical than, like, well, obviously the Mini Cooper or smaller cars than this. If you've got a couple of kids and you've got loads of gubbins to carry, I have to say I think you're probably better off looking to the Countryman and cars of that bigger class. So I have to say, you know, if you've got a couple of kids and quite a lot of stuff to carry, I think this probably isn't going to cut it for you. But if you're not so worried about that, then this is a happy medium between those two models. Boot capacity is 300 litres with the seats up, and you can fold them in a 60-40 split if you need to. So space back here, well, it's not too bad. You get an average sized adult like me, I'm 5'7", and me sitting behind myself, absolutely fine. It's a little bit dark back here, but comfy enough. You get a couple of charging ports. So again, as long as you're not expecting this to be full-size family SUV practical, it's really not too bad, to be honest. The interior of the Mini is a direct carryover from the Mini Cooper, so you get the huge circular screen with OLED display and lots of really lovely classy feeling recycled materials. It's that premium feel inside and the brand kudos that Mini has that will really sell the Aceman over similarly priced longer range rivals like the MG4. So, as with the standard Mini Cooper, in the Aceman, which shares the same platform, you've got those two batteries I've already mentioned, get a bit more power in the bigger battery that we've got here. So this will do 0 to 62 in 7.1 seconds. We're talking front-wheel drive here, it's not four-wheel drive, which is fast enough, isn't it, really, I think? I mean, it's quite punchy, and, of course, you've got the Mini experiences. So if you want to, you can stick it in go-kart, and it even cheers for you. So it's got all of that kind of trademark Mini character. It's quite overtly sporting. It makes fun noises. You get a little bit of torque steer when you accelerate hard, I must say, but not bad. And there is a kind of scrappiness to it that I think people want from a Mini. And the Aceman definitely, to be honest, it doesn't feel that drastically different to the standard Mini Cooper. And I mean that in a good way, because I like the way the Cooper drives. I think that sort of the go-kart handling, I know it's a cliche these days, isn't it? It's still why people buy a Mini, isn't it? And the Aceman absolutely has that in spades with the driver experiences. Obviously, you can toggle that through to the standard core mode or the classic. For a sort of quieter experience, you can turn the sounds off as well. Those sort of synthesized engine sounds, you can have that off. So you've got all the options. It's just as you would want a Mini to be. So it's quite quick in terms of its steering responses. It's got more than enough performance. Even the smaller battery, which is a bit less power, but it's still 7.9 seconds to 62. So it's not slow, is it? I haven't driven that one, so I'll have to wait and see what that's like. But certainly this one I think is really pretty decent to drive. As for ride comfort, well, we know that Minis, there's nearly always a compromise in terms of it being a bit firmer because you've got that sportier handling. And it's the same with the Aceman, I have to say. So you get that vertical damper movement, it's just bouncy. And you do notice it around town and even at higher speeds. But it's not a deal breaker because it is damped well enough. So it sort of softens the bumps. And I think anybody who's going to buy one of these, if you're thinking about it, you're probably the sort of person that wants that kind of the sense of being involved with the car, being quite engaged. And a firmer ride comfort is kind of part of that. I do think in UK towns, which inevitably are going to, they're a bit scrappier than the roads around here in Denmark, I think you're going to notice it a bit. Some people might find it a bit too tiring. Hey, like I said, I don't think it's a deal breaker for the sort of person that's going to be looking at an Aceman. So basically, the Mini is exactly what most people will want of this sort of car, provided you are after that sporty, slightly firm riding feeling that Mini sort of specialises in. It's pretty good. Just don't expect it to be a really practical family car because it's not. It's basically only a notch up from a standard 3-door Mini Cooper in terms of its practicality. And you can get all of those other cars that we've already mentioned that will offer a bit more space and some even have the longer range. If you love the looks and you love the way it drives, there isn't a lot else out there that really competes with the Aceman. But just remember that you are paying for the privilege of that premium brand and for that sporty drive.